This is the disturbing story of the Incel King, Elliot Rodger. He was a disturbed 22-year-old who went on to murder 3 people with a gun, all 3 of his roommates by stabbing and injuring 14 others with his car. What was the motive behind this murderous rage? Let's talk about it.
Tomorrow is the day of Retribution, the day in which I will have my revenge against humanity. I'll take great pleasure in slaughtering all of you.
Elliot Rodger was born in London in 1991 and later moved to California with his family. His father, Peter Rodger, worked in the film industry. He was an executive producer on the famous film saga The Hunger Games. His mother was a nurse for the film company. He grew up in luxury, private schools, trips to premiere events, even hobnobbing with Hollywood celebrities. But despite all of that, Elliot felt empty. He was shy, he was awkward, and he was diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder, or PDD, which is a form of autism. He struggled to make friends, connect with peers, and ultimately struggled to connect with women. In his manifesto, My Twisted World, Elliot describes his childhood with a level of narcissism and a growing sense of entitlement. He thought that women owed him attraction, and when they didn't give him the attraction that he wanted, it drove him mad. At some point in his late teens, Elliot Rodger discovered online chat forums where frustrated single men went to vent. This included sites like PUAHate.com. This was basically a place where sad, lonely, angry men gathered to express and share their hatred with women. Rodger was a frequent viewer of these forums, and he absorbed their worldviews. Women weren't just portrayed in these forums like they were uninterested in them. They were portrayed as evil. Evil, manipulative, shallow, the names go on. And men like Elliot, who were short, awkward, insecure, were framed as victims of a genetic lottery. Posters would talk about Chads, tall, confident, handsome men, and Stacys, the women who went after these men. Can I just say, before we carry on, this is just really pathetic. Genuinely pathetic. It was the birthplace of a memified, radical belief system. It was named the Black Pill. The idea that physical appearance determines your entire value in life, and that if you weren't attractive, you're doomed. Elliot felt this way, and he internalised all of it. He wrote on forums about how he'd never kissed a girl, never had a girlfriend, never hugged a girl, never even held a girl's hand, and most of all, he'd never had sex. He regularly used to blame everyone else for his inadequacies, not himself. He would never take any responsibility for why he can't get any women. It's everyone else's fault, it's not mine. I'm perfect just the way I am. He even said he went to coffee shops on the occasion just to watch men get rejected by the women that they were with. This guy's just so sad. Get a life. Can't get a girl, so what? Maybe there's something that you need to work on within yourself. Maybe be less of a wet wipe, that helps. He often fantasised about violence, about revenge, and this was all before his manifesto. In April 2014, just 1 month before the attack, Elliot wrote a 137-page autobiography called My Twisted World. It started like any other diary, childhood memories, school drama, but halfway through the book it quickly turned dark. He obsessively recounts every single time he was humiliated by girls. The thing is, I can understand how this could drive you mad, but like the amount of like self-pity this guy is like swimming in is genuinely embarrassing, to be honest. Every time he saw happy couples, he felt disgusted. He often refers to women as vile, vicious, heartless little creatures. He even dreamt of having a concentration camp where he could starve them all to death. Sounds like a king if you ask me. He sounds like a really perfect guy. You know what, I bet when women go to sleep at night they just think, I wish I could have a guy that just wants to put me back in the Holocaust. And this was all delivered in this cold, matter-of-fact tone, because he genuinely believed these things, and he was doing the world a favour by punishing women for rejecting him. He calls May the 23rd the day of retribution. Elliot Rodger had a YouTube channel, so I mean that's where me and his similarities sort of begin and end. I have a YouTube channel, he has a YouTube channel, or he had a YouTube channel. Yeah, so Elliot Rodger had a YouTube channel where he would post videos basically asking the camera why girls weren't interested in him. He's got a handful of videos on his YouTube channel, and they're all the same. It's just him moaning and moaning and moaning. I'm like, yeah, Fucking hell. And that leads up to his last and latest video on his channel called The Day of Retribution. He details his entire plan, from stabbing his roommates to shooting strangers in the street of Isla Vista. He even says in the video, tomorrow will be the day that I get my revenge. He even says, I'm gonna go and shoot every single blonde slut in there.
And I will slaughter every single spoiled, stuck-up, blonde I see inside there.
So obviously this wasn't just a breakdown. Of course, over the lifetime, he had been building up resentment, building up more anger, and then this was the moment he thought, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm just going to go murder some people. That'll make me feel better. And unfortunately now that leads us to the day where he committed the attacks. Elliot legally purchased 3 semi-automatic pistols, 2 Glock 34s and 1 Sig Sauer P226. These are not low caliber guns. The Glock 34 is used in competitive shooting and tactical units. He's also stockpiled over 400 rounds of ammunition and several 10-round magazines, which was California's legal limit at the time. And as usual, the murders started at home. At 9:27 PM, Elliot stabbed 3 of his roommates in his apartment. The names were Cheng Yuan James Hong, 20, George Chen, aged only 19, and Weihan David Wang, 20. Sorry if I butchered any of those names, I'm not very well cultured. He stabbed each of them dozens of times, over 50 stab wounds in some cases. This guy got off on that. All this pented up anger and rage and resentment towards women, he took them out on those bodies. 50 stab wounds on one body, that is overkill, which is exactly what the coroner's report described it as. Overkill. Then he got in his black BMW and drove to Alpha Phi, which is a sorority house near UC Santa Barbara. He knocked, intending to start the massacre there, but there was no answer. They probably saw him on the CCTV. Frustrated, he turned the gun on 3 women just walking by, standing outside. He shot all 3. Catherine Cooper and Veronica Weiss died at the scene. The third survived with serious injuries, and her name is unknown. He then drove to Isla Vista, shooting randomly at pedestrians, cyclists, and even into restaurants. He then drove into Isla Vista. He ran over 1 cyclist with his car. He shot another man dead at a deli, Christopher Michaels Martinez, aged only 20 years old. So in total, 6 people were murdered, 14 injured, 7 by gunfire and the others by vehicle. During this time, the police had managed to arrive at the scene, which ultimately ended up in a shootout between Elliot and the police. He had multiple shootouts with the police. The final one left his car wrecked, and at 9:39 PM, Elliot Rodger decided to turn the pistol round on himself, and he shot himself in the head. After his death, Elliot Rodger became a meme, and not in the ironic way. People in incel forums called him Saint Elliot and the Supreme Gentleman. Are these guys for fucking real? Why are you praising someone for going out and shooting people and stabbing their roommates 50 times? What is wrong with these people? The Supreme Gentleman was actually the term he used to describe himself in his last video, where he rants about women choosing brutish men over him. Brutish, or just better. They made fan art of him, called him a hero. They passed around his manifesto like it was holy scripture. Seriously. And it didn't even stop there. In 2018, Alec Minassian drove a van into pedestrians in Toronto, killing 10. Before doing it, he posted, "The Incel Rebellion has already begun. All hail the Supreme Gentleman, Elliot Rodger." Other incel-inspired killers include Scott Bierley, sorry if I butchered that, 2018 Tallahassee yoga studio shooter. Trevor Heitman, 2018, killed 3 in a car attack. Jake Davison, 2021 UK mass shooting, also cited incel beliefs. These weren't just isolated incidents, they were ideologically motivated, inspired by Rodger's worldviews. Ultimately, what happened in Isla Vista wasn't just a tragedy, it was a warning. We talk a lot about gun violence, we talk a lot about mental health, and we talk a lot about red flag laws. And that's important, but the ideology gets overlooked a lot of the time. This wasn't just a guy who snapped, this was a guy who believed, truly believed, that women were the enemy, because they just didn't want to have sex with him. The men like him were somehow victims of a sexual hierarchy. You're not a victim of a sexual hierarchy. You're a victim of yourself. You've gotten into your head so much and you've become such like a little victimised guy that you can't seem to accept that women don't like you because you haven't put the effort in to actually become anything. You're just a guy with a very rich dad and a very childish attitude. It's not exactly the most attractive thing in the world to a woman, is it? And unfortunately, he found thousands of people online who actually agreed with his views, which is scary. You think about how many 1,000 people are, and there's probably way more than that. If we're serious about stopping the next Elliot Rodger, we need to stop treating these online communities like they're jokes. They're not jokes. They are in a way. You can look at them and be like, you're a joke. But they're almost like recruitment centres for these crazy, angry, bitter men. Ultimately, Elliot Rodger isn't someone to be fascinated by. He's not a misunderstood genius. He's not even a meme. He's a narcissist who murdered innocent people just because he felt a bit angry inside that he hadn't put his willy in a vagina. So yeah, stay aware, stay critical, and remember the names of the victims. So it comes to my final thoughts. What do I think of this whole situation? I mean, seriously, this is one of the most craziest stories I've ever heard in my life. How one guy not being able to have sex or just kiss a girl has driven him to the point where he went and shot people. That's genuinely crazy. You've got to think about it as well. This guy had everything handed to him. His dad was rich. He worked in the film industry. You know, everything was given to him from a very young age, and that sense of entitlement grew over the years to the point where he genuinely just could not fathom why girls didn't like him. He never grew up, he never had to go out and do anything himself, which ultimately is what makes you grow up, doing everything yourself and being independent. But he didn't do that, which meant that he was basically a child. And this is what happens. You can't spoil your children. Now, I'm not saying that all spoiled children are going to end up being mass shooters. Ultimately, nothing ever good comes from spoiling your children. You need to let them grow and you need to let them understand what money really is and how much a lot of money really is and what that can mean for your life. The amount of times we hear about kids, like kids celebrities and stuff, they go off the rails because they got famous and so rich so young that they became so entitled. And this is almost what's happened here. Obviously, Elliot Rodger wasn't famous, but his dad was very, very rich. It was probably sort of known. I mean, if he's like mixing with celebrities and Hollywood elites, you would imagine that he was probably quite well known. So yeah, ultimately, if you're a guy out there, yeah, and you can't seem to fathom why girls aren't interested in you, and you're actually thinking that they're the problem, they're not. Girls are not the problem. If all of them don't like you, there's a very high chance that there's something to do with you. There's something that you haven't done. You haven't put the work in to actually become what they would be attracted to. Okay, so then don't take this victim mindset, because ultimately at the end of the day, all you're guaranteeing yourself is misery. Thank you guys for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and make sure to turn the bell notifications on so you get notified every time I post a new true crime video. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.